And then after this session, we are going to have a Q&A on the citizenship and naturalization panel that we had, as well as answer questions from the earlier panels if people have questions on the topics from the earlier panels, like for DACA DAPA or family-based immigration or Immigration 101, where we'll have some guest speakers who will be joining the Q&A after this session. If you have any questions, viewers here or viewers online, here at home can send their questions via Facebook page at Citizenship Now or via Twitter at CUNY Citizenship using the hashtag Citizenship Now, or you can email questions for the presenters at cunycitizenshipnow@gmail.com. I'll just repeat that email address, cunycitizenshipnow@gmail.com. I also wanted to remind all of you that we cannot use the iClicker. Please return the iClicker up at the registration desk before you leave today. We need to get all the iClickers back. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our next speaker. The next session is How to Make Referrals, and our speaker is Ken Ramsey, who is the program coordinator with the Immigration Advocates Network. So a round of applause for Ken. Ken?
All right. So everyone's had their coffee and everyone's had their cookies and feeling hyper. If you want to stand up for this presentation, that's fine with me. Or if you want to slowly walk up and down the stairs there, that's fine as well. Or you can also sit there. So my name is Ken Ramsey. I'm the program coordinator for the Immigration Advocates Network, which we'll short name IAN. And I've been the program coordinator for about 5 years there. And real quick background on the organization. IAN is a collaborative effort of leading immigrants' rights organizations designed to increase access to justice for low-income immigrants and strengthen the capacity of organizations serving them. So in a nutshell, we provide free, easily accessible online resources and tools for low-income immigrants as well as for organizations that are working with them. And one of those tools is immigrationlawhelp.org, which I'm really excited that CUNY will be using as one of the primary referral resources during the call-in. So very happy to be here today for that. Great. So immigrationlawhelp.org is part of IAN's National Immigration Legal Services Directory. And it really cuts across all of IAN's programs, and you can see that it's artistically displayed up here, all of the various programs that IAN utilizes the directory for. So we have a naturalization directory as part of Citizenship Works, and so you'll be using that during the call-in, as well as a DACA directory at weownthedream.org, which you'll also be using, and then immigrationlawhelp.org, which I mentioned. The naturalization one has organizations that are providing naturalization and citizenship services, DACA services, but then immigrationlawhelp.org has it all, has more than 1,000 organizations. Okay. We also have our directory in our mobile app, Amigo, which is free, so I encourage everyone to download it. Citizenship Works and Own the Dream have their own mobile apps as well. The Citizenship Works app and the Pocket DACA app. So you're really not going to find a bigger fan of the directory than me, and that's because, as Tom and I were just discussing, it takes a lot of work to put one of these online directories together. And when I started at IAN in late 2010, we actually took some of the previously existing phone book size immigration legal service directories for nonprofits, and we emailed and we called more than 2,000 organizations in order to build this directory. So we update it every year. I'm happy to say that we're more than 95% updated for 2015. New York is almost completely updated, so all the information that you'll be accessing during the call-in is accurate and up to date, and you can be assured of that. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and move on to the next slide. There are two different ways that you'll be using the information in the directory during the call-in. Most folks will have a referral packet, which is a printout of immigration law help data for New York City boroughs, for Long Island counties, for Westchester County, and for New Jersey. Is anybody here from New Jersey? Okay, good, because yeah, I'm from New Jersey also, so I need to check in. But if you do receive a call, and you probably will from people outside of those areas, you'll raise your hand, and a supervisor will bring you a Microsoft Surface tablet in order to look up information via the zip code of people that are calling out of state. So you'll be able to help them as well. As I said, there's more than 1,000 organizations in this directory, and it's across all 50 states. So I was just told that this had not been announced yet, I think. A lucky few of you will actually be able to use the Microsoft Surface during the duration of your shift during the call-in. So you won't have the paper version. You'll actually be able to use the tablet, use the Surface, in order to look that information up really quickly. I think that's really exciting. That's the first time they've done something like this. They're piloting it right now. So I think that if you're one of the lucky few that gets to use one, that they would probably value your feedback and your fresh perspective. Let's actually start with the Surface right now and how to look information up online. So yeah, this is the home screen for immigrationlawhelp.org. As you saw 2 slides ago, you see the map of the United States. Most of Ian's directories look the same. So when you're looking at immigrationlawhelp.org, or whether you're clicking on the link for the citizenship directory, it's all going to look like that, basically. The colors will be different. But it's going to look like that, and it's going to be easy to use. So if you ever need to return to this screen, you can just click on the logo at the top, immigrationlawhelp.org, and it'll bring you back here. So if you ever get lost somewhere deep in the directory, you can always jump back there very easily. All right, so there are 3 different ways that you can search the directory from this screen. You can search by state, you can search by zip code, or by detention facility. And I don't believe you're going to encounter too many callers that are looking for services for specific detention facilities. So I think for the purposes of the call-in, you're really going to be focused on search by zip code, which is the first arrow at the top there, and search by state, which is the second arrow there that's pointing at New York State. Okay, so in order to search by zip code, it's just as easy as it looks. You enter in the zip code, and you hit go. If you want to look at the state first, you can click on the state, and you will get results. The results listed here have the organization's name, the areas of legal assistance, so adjustment of status, asylum, DACA, DAPA, naturalization, whatever immigration legal services the organization is providing here, as well as types of legal assistance such as filings with USCIS or representation, help completing forms, as well as the location and contact information. Now, if you search by zip code, it's not on this one, but if you search by zip code, you'll actually get an additional line of information at the bottom that tells you how far an organization is from the zip code that you entered. So if you do search by zip code, that's really, really helpful, I think, to the callers. They can know if there's, an organization that's literally, around the corner or a few blocks away. Okay. Now, this is really good for general information, but you will want to drill down further, I believe, if you are able to figure out which kind of service the caller can benefit from. So how you do that is to narrow the results, scroll to the bottom of the page. So you're here, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's going to be a refined search section. And all of the items that are listed here. I see counties serve, areas of immigration legal assistance, populations, languages, there's a lot. This is all data that we collected, we at Ian collected for the directory and for immigrationlawhelp.org. So you're able to search by any of these different categories. And I think for the purposes of the call-in, you'll really be using the areas of immigration legal assistance, the types of immigration legal assistance provided, but you can really search by all these. And you can search by zip code at the bottom as well. All right, so this is how you're going to use the section. The top arrow there, you'll click on the plus symbol, and the drop-down will occur, and you'll have all of the information, the selections listed out there. The second arrow there, you click on the box next to the service that you want to search for. So the arrow is pointing to naturalization and citizenship, and also I can see that DAPA has been checked. You can check as many of those as you want to search by, as many or as few. And then all you have to do is click Refine Search at the bottom, and you'll get filtered results. So there's really just 3 steps to refining the search. You're going to click the plus symbol, choose your selections, then click Refine Search at the bottom, and you'll get your results, and you can share those with the caller. Okay, so I think the most important thing to pass off to the caller is the organization's name, as well as the location and the contact information so that they can reach out individually to these organizations. For every organization listed here, there is a phone number. Not all organizations have a website or an email, but most of them do. If they do, that will be listed as well here. So I believe the best practice is to give information for 3 different organizations to each caller when you do a search for them. So, and there should be, plenty of organizations that you'll be able to provide information for. But 3 is the magic number. So really important, remind the caller that all of these organizations are all separate, independent organizations. They have their own policies and procedures and intake processes for helping people and for receiving new clients and providing services. That's really important. So just passing off this information doesn't mean they're guaranteed to have an appointment tomorrow or something like that. They really need to reach out and talk to the organizations in order to determine if they can be served by them. All right, and then to search again, it's very easy. You just have to click New Search at the top of the page, or you can also click the immigrationlawhelp.org logo, or scroll to the bottom of the page again and refine your search that way. So when the next caller comes in, it's pretty easy to get back to square one and do a new search for them. Oh, okay, so just an important thing to note. If you're searching in New York State and the next caller that you receive is from a different state, you'll want to actually go out and start the search again. So you'll click New Search and start the search there because the results will already be pre-filtered for New York State or whatever state you happen to be looking in. So when in doubt, click New Search. All right. All right, the referral packet. Now, sorry to say that not everybody will have a surface to work with. Many of you will have a referral packet, which is just as great because all of the same information is going to be in that referral packet for New York City boroughs, Westchester County, Long Island counties, and New Jersey. They're all listed in the table of contents, and that's how you'll be doing. How you'll be serving those callers is by using the table of contents. So yeah, you won't be searching by zip code. So rather than doing that, you'll flip to the table of contents and find the county or the area in New Jersey where they're located and search that way. But if you have the referral packet and you receive a call from somebody who's outside of these counties or outside of New Jersey, what do? You raise your hand, and a supervisor will bring you one of the magic tablets, one of the magic surfaces, and you can use the features there in order to search by any zip code in the country. Okay, so you take the caller's information, and you check the table of contents. You flip to the appropriate section of the referral packet based on their location, and find 3 organizations, 1, 2, 3, that provide services that they may need. So DACA or DAPA, citizenship, whatever service it may be. And just as with the online version, you're going to provide the name, the address, and contact info for 3 organizations. And also remind them that they're independent organizations that have different policies and procedures for intake. Okay. So, wow, I think I went really fast here. Awesome. Great. So we're going to do some poll questions now. I think the process here is raise your hand when I read off the different options, A, B, C, or D, and we'll do it by that. So the first one is, what's the best information that you can provide Jennifer? Jennifer moved to the U.S. from Mexico when she was 6 years old without a legal status. Her parents brought her here. She wasn't aware of this until she tried to go to college. Jennifer is now 23 years old. She heard there may be a new program that can help her. She lives in Newark, New Jersey. What information can you provide Jennifer? So A, tell her to go to a nearby Citizenship Now location and ask for help. B, using her zip code, search on immigrationlawhelp.org for an organization near her that provides DACA services. C, tell her the new program is on hold and she should just wait and see what happens. Or D, raise your hand and ask an attorney if I'm very reassured by your laughter there. D, raise your hand and ask an attorney if there are any resources for her. So A, raise your hands if it's A. Raise your hands if it's B. Okay, cool. Raise your hands if C. And then D. All right, so great. Jennifer seems like she may qualify for DACA. If you're using a Surface, right here, search immigrationlawhelp.org using her zip code so you can provide her with 3 referrals for organizations that assist in DACA near Newark, New Jersey. And if you're using a referral packet, you'll use the table of contents and find organizations near Newark that are providing DACA services. Okay, that was great. I think that was like a perfect score. What information can you provide Andre? Andre heard about the call-in from his cousin in Queens, but he's calling from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and wants to know if he's eligible for Obama's new program. What information can you provide? A, tell him the new program is on hold and he should wait and see what happens. B, find out what part of Queens his cousin lives in, then flip to that part of the list and give him information for one of those organizations. C, explain that this is a New York-based event and you're unable to give him any information. I think I made these questions too easy, maybe. Or D, raise your hand, ask to speak to a supervisor to look up organizations near the caller based on his zip code. A, B, C, D. Awesome. Yeah, so D, you guys know it. You've definitely been paying attention all day. That's what that indicates to me. Or you're just experts already. Raise your hand and a supervisor will provide you with a Surface so you can use immigrationlawhelp.org to search for 3 out-of-state organizations that assist with DACA using Andre's zip code. Okay, Leela wasn't born in the U.S. but has lived here as long as she can remember. She was very young when she came here. Leela graduated college, got a job, now has 2 children. However, she never had legal status. She never married, and her children were both born in New York City. What information can you provide Leela? A, find organizations in her area that provide services for DACA and DAPA. Tell her the president's new programs may be able to help her, but they're on hold right now, so she should just wait. C, because her children were born here, she might be eligible for citizenship. Refer her to a nearby organization that provides citizenship services. Ask for her name and number and tell her that someone will call her tomorrow. Okay, so is it A, B, C, D? It's A. I think we have a critical mass there. Because Leela came to the U.S. as a child and also has children who were born in the U.S., she may be eligible for both DACA and DAPA. So she should be referred to an organization that provides services for both DACA and DAPA cases. All right, this is a really smart crowd here. All right, what information can you provide Christos? Christos heard about the DACA program and thinks he might be eligible. He read some information online and said he just needs an attorney to review his situation real quick. He has a day off tomorrow and wants to drop in and talk to someone. What information can you provide him? A, tell him you can't help him unless he gives you more information about his situation. B, just hang up on him. C, explain that you can give him information about organizations near him, but he will have to... Oops. This is a slightly fidgety hand here. You guys knew it. Explain that you can give him information about organizations near him, but he will have to contact them to find out their availability to see him. Or D, put the caller on hold while you call an organization near him to see if they have any available appointments for tomorrow. Okay, guys. A. B. C. Awesome. And D. Yeah, I changed it really fast. Every organization has their own policies and procedures about serving clients. So I'm kind of a broken record, I think, but it's really important. So it's important to relay this to all callers as you give them information for these different organizations. They're all separate and they all have their own different policies. All right. What information can you provide Daniele? Daniele is married to a U.S. citizen. She has 3 children. She and her husband have been married for more than 4 years. And she lives in Brooklyn. Okay, A, give her CUNY Citizenship Now, the CUNY Citizenship Now event phone number. B, give her information for the CUNY Citizenship Now Medgar Evers Immigration Center in Brooklyn. C, using her zip code if you have the Surface, or borough if you have the paper resource, find an organization near her that provides immigration services. Or D, all of the above. Well, let's raise our hands. How about that? A. Okay. B. C. D. Okay, everybody was right because everybody raised their hand at one point in time. All of the above. You can do all these things. And I think that's the last one. Okay. Tips. Again, policies and procedures for each organization are different. Definitely let them know that. If you have a computer, the quickest way to find organizations is to enter their zip code using immigrationlawhelp.org. Or if it's definitely citizenship, you can click on the citizenship link on the Surface. Or if definitely DACA, you can do that as well. And you'll be able to search by their zip code. If you have the referral packet, the quickest way is just to flip to the table of contents and use their borough, their county, the part of New Jersey they're in, and search that way. Give the caller at least 3 different organizations in their area. And if you have a question, just raise your hand and talk to a supervisor. And finally, enjoy this experience because it is fun to be helpful. And that's why we're here. All right. That's it. Questions? I think this is a question. Oh, okay. You were standing in front of the mic. All right, thanks a lot, guys. I know it's been a long day. I appreciate it.
So another round of applause for Ken Ramsey from Immigrant Advocacy Service, Advocates Network. All right, so the next and the final session of the day is the afternoon Q&A session. So I'd like to introduce our panelists for our Q&A, for the question and answer. We'll start out with Midori Hills, who spoke earlier about citizenship and naturalization. Alfredo Murga, a partner with the Hua and Murger LLP law firm. And Lena Kandwala is an associate attorney with the law firm of Claudia Slavinsky and Associates. So I can get a round of applause for all of them. And so we are going to cover questions from this afternoon's session on citizenship and naturalization also, but if you have questions from the earlier panels on DACA and DAPA, on Immigration 101 or family-based immigration, please feel free to write the questions on your index cards and send them out to the staff who are in each aisle. Also, as a reminder for people here as well as at home, can send their questions via our Facebook page at Citizenship Now or via Twitter at CUNY Citizenship using hashtag Citizenship Now, or you can email questions for the presenters at cunycitizenshipnow@gmail.com. Again, I'll repeat that email address, cunycitizenshipnow@gmail.com. So with that, I guess yes, we have another panelist. Excellent. We have our director, CUNY Citizenship Now, Alan Wernick. Excellent. And before we get started,
I'll have one. Thank you. I'll take one.
There you go.
Thank you.
all right, can we take the first question?
My brother has been a permanent resident for about 30 years. He's now about 70 years old and he does not know how to read or write at all. How will he be able to pass the test for citizenship?
Midori, would you like to
So I
handle
think
that?
that's for me. So when we were talking about that section before, I'm sure you all remember, for certain people, for permanent residents, long-term permanent residents of a certain age, there's no requirement for English literacy or to be able to speak, write, or read basic English. So in this case, if he's been a permanent resident for 30 years and he's over 70 years old, that means he can meet under any of the criteria, which would be with your green card for 20 years and over 50, or with your permanent residence for 15 years and over 55. So he won't have to be able to show that he can read, write, or speak in English because he meets that exception.
All right, the next question.
Okay. It was earlier said that one does not need to renew their green card to apply for naturalization. Shouldn't you renew your green card for traveling purposes, though? What about good moral character? What is the penalty for not registering for selective service?
So for traveling with for the green card itself expiring,
Can you hear?
I feel that
Can you use this?
in New York, my experience for renewing cards is pretty straightforward. There's a 990 process. But for individuals who have a need to travel immediately, I've noticed that the New York District Office is very kind to permit a stamping of the passport so long as the individual is still able to show that they are still a permanent resident. Because the card itself may not be available immediately. For the naturalization aspect of the card, there are some rules that you do have to renew the card if over 6 months, I believe.
Well, we were mentioning, you weren't here for the earlier talk, but in the New York district, if you're applying for naturalization, but your green card is expired, they will not require that you renew the green card. They will allow you to still proceed with the naturalization, but which is different than the written national policy, which does say that if it's about to expire within 6 months or it's already expired, you're supposed to renew it. And you had a second part to that question? I forget.
Yeah, it was about selective service. Hold on.
Oh, what is the penalty for failure to register for selective service?
Yeah.
Lena, would you like to take it? Or yeah.
You are required to have registered for selective service if you were lawfully present in the United States between the ages of 18 and 26. However, if you were unable to register, you can, I believe, get a waiver, but you need to provide an affidavit documenting why you weren't able to register and really, be able to explain why that happened. And if it's accepted, then you could still proceed to naturalize.
Okay, next question.
This is a policy question about the policies and procedures for the call-in. So if a person has questions about the N-400 form, on the N-400 form itself, should I go through all the questions over the phone, or should I just refer him to one of the free legal services organizations?
You would not go through every question on the form N-400 at the call-in. You can raise your paddle, your question mark paddle. All the volunteers at the call-in will have a question mark paddle. You can raise your question mark paddle to speak with a supervisor, and the supervisor can try to flesh out more of what the issue is that the caller has. But you don't feel at any point that you have to go through each and every question on an application or a form in order to respond to a caller's questions. Next question.
Okay. If a lawful permanent resident was gone for more than 365 days, he can apply for citizenship 4 years and a day after, only if he had a travel document, right? If he doesn't have the reentry permit, then he would have to wait the full 5 years. Please confirm.
No,
This is a loaded question because there are rules for naturalization, and then there are rules about maintaining residence status. And so the reentry permit that you mentioned is to preserve the status of permanent resident. It may interrupt the calculation for citizenship in that a person will need to wait 4 years and 1 day. But there's a bigger issue. There's the issue of intent. There's continuity of presence, right? All of these things have to be considered. So there's no one clear answer or a short answer, except that it sounds like the person preserved status, and just get a little bit more detail regarding the reason for travel. But it's a loaded question, I think.
All right, next question.
Maria acquired citizenship through her citizen father. She received her U.S. passport but does not have her certificate of citizenship. She never felt the need to get one. But she wants to file an I-130 for her sibling. Can she do it with just her passport, or does she also need the certificate of citizenship as proof?
She can use...
Okay. Lena? Yeah, Lena? Yeah.
She could use her passport as proof of her citizenship and does not need a certificate of naturalization in order to file an I-130 petition.
Yeah.
In the past, I've seen RFEs, requests for evidence. Perhaps the person's background triggered something, but if you're a citizen, one of the proof is a U.S. passport, and I think it's more of an advocacy to prove or to argue that the passport itself should be sufficient.
Yes. In the past, I know of cases where the New York District USCIS had given a petitioner, a U.S. citizen petitioner who only had the passport as proof, as opposed to the certificate of citizenship from driving citizenship as evidence. And New York District had given them a difficult time. They wanted the certificate of citizenship, and that means you'd have to pay all that money to get the certificate of citizenship. But that was a while ago, and I think it hasn't been a problem lately because by regulation, they're supposed to accept the U.S. passport is equivalent proof of U.S. citizenship to a certificate of citizenship. So I have not heard of it being a problem recently to submit the U.S. passport instead of a certificate of citizenship.
I'm just going to add 2 more cents to that, which is that there was a period of time when the passport agency was not very good at, or the passport agency sort of had a different view about issuing passports to people who they felt that acquired or might have derived citizenship, that and where USCIS was kind of more strict about it. And so I think in cases where, especially where the child is derived or acquired citizenship, sometimes they do want to see the certificate. Not that they should, even if their rules say that they should accept a passport. So I think that's when we usually would have seen it. And to bring it back to the training manual again, we didn't talk about it in the section, but it actually, there's a page in Chapter 2, which is the section on acquisition and derivation of citizenship that shows what you need to do to prove your status. And so that is on page 39 in Section 2, so in the new Bible.
All right, before we go on to the next question, I just want to introduce to everyone, we have another panelist, Elizabeth Newman, who is the Director of Immigrant Initiatives and Clinical Professor at the CUNY School of Law. If you have a round of applause to welcome Elizabeth. All right, next question.
Okay, the next question is, what if someone did not write down their children on their immigrant visa application and later wants to include those children on their naturalization application?
It's not a fatal mistake. It's something that can be corrected as long as you can present the proper proofs of, obviously the birth certificates. It certainly might heighten scrutiny on your case, though, as to why the children were not presented previously. Is there something strange about it? So at that point, things like a birth certificate that was not issued concurrent with the child being born, that might have been issued when the child was 5, might raise suspicion, or 10. And some rural areas and countries just don't have a need to do the certificates right away. But that's the sort of thing that might come under scrutiny, but certainly it's something that can be corrected.
Is it also a question, could it raise questions about if it was like someone got their permanent residence through spousal petition, if there's any concern about whether or not it was a legitimate marriage? Does that ever come up? Does anyone know?
I haven't seen it come up recently, but I know that certainly if you file for naturalization under the 3-year rule, and the children weren't listed on the original petition, it could be a trigger for more questions. But if you have a reasonable answer, if there are circumstances that can clearly explain why this occurred, then you can overcome it. But certainly the suspicion is, did you commit fraud? Was this a real marriage? Whether it's the 5-year rule, again, it's the merits of the applicant, so the marriage itself shouldn't be the sole basis for a discretionary denial or a follow-up.
All right, next question.
This is another policy and procedures clarification question. I'm worried about giving advice. I'm giving information, not advice. Is it okay to get entry dates or birth dates? For example, if they were here on November 14th, is that an okay question that I can ask?
Yes, because it's one of the qualifying. For example, for DACA, you have to determine whether or not the person was physically present in the United States, expanded DACA or DAPA, was physically present in the United States on November 20th, 2014. So it's okay to ask that sort of question. But you don't want to ask like their names, their address, like social security number. You don't want to ask identifying information about that. And you don't want to give out identifying information about yourself. So, but it is okay to ask questions to determine some potential eligibility requirements. Next question.
Okay. Is it mandatory for an elderly U.S. citizen who is receiving Social Security to file taxes? This person petitioned for his adult child overseas and would need to supply an affidavit of support.
Anyone open to?
Mandatory for an elderly U.S. citizen who is receiving Social Security to file taxes.
So if a senior citizen is receiving income, usually there should be a form of a stream of income, a 1099, for instance. But the other question is the sponsorship route. If that person is petitioning for a family member from abroad, they will have to meet the sponsorship criteria. And regardless of whether the income is low or not, or whether they need to file taxes, perhaps they have zero income or low income that doesn't allow him to file taxes, then they can simply state so on the 864 affidavit, no need to file, or state the loan number, and may need to reach out to a family member or a friend to become the joint sponsor. But certainly the individual, the senior citizen, needs to disclose the financial information to qualify as the sponsor for that petition. Is that clear?
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, so if the elderly person is the petitioner, they definitely are going to have to file an affidavit of support, and if they don't meet the requirements, they could reach out to another person who meets the requirements of being a sponsor for an affidavit of support and to be a joint sponsor. Next question.
I recently mailed in my application for citizenship. If I do the change of address online because I moved, do I still need to fill out the change of address form and mail it to USCIS? I'm worried.
Midori, would you like to take?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say yes, that you want to notify USCIS probably in as many ways as possible to ensure that you're going to get your notices, that you're going to show up on your appointment, that you're going to go to your biometrics, things like that. So I'm not sure if the form referred to in the question is the AR-11, which is the change of address form that's required for all non-citizens when they move. And so I would say, yeah, it's a half-a-page form. Just put it in the mail. Make sure that you meet those requirements. So I would say you want to change it online, which you already did. I would send an AR-11, the form, to notify that you have a new address. And I would probably copy the receipt notice if you already have one and send it by mail, too. I mean, just to cover my bases, and I might even call the 800 number and say,
Right.
just so that there's no way that there isn't anything else that you could have done to let USCIS know what your new address is, because you're the one who wants to become, did it say the application is for citizenship, right? You're the one who wants to become a citizen. So if one of those things could have been the thing that, made them send it to your new address instead of your old address, you want to make sure that you've done whatever you can.
Yeah.
So and they're all free. They're all, it's going to take, it's just a little bit of time. So I would I would probably advise to bother to take the time to do it.
I would emphasize that too, because there is the guidance from the USCIS saying that all foreign nationals, like lawful permanent residents or other foreign nationals living in the United States, are supposed to notify the Department of Homeland Security within 10 days of moving and filing the form AR-11. And if you have a naturalization application pending, I'm pretty certain that just filing the AR-11 with USCIS is not going to notify the naturalization that the USCIS about your change of address for the naturalization application. So I think it's a good point to be notifying, as Midori said, filing the AR-11, call the 800 National Customer Support Center to change it there and change it online, and to write and send by certified mail or return receipt requested a letter notifying the USCIS to the last address that you got your receipt from for the naturalization application, indicating your change of address.
One more thing, we've used the USCIS website tool more confidently now, because it does allow you to update the pending application. And in the past, perhaps it suffered from some glitches, but we've been pretty good now
that's
with
good to know.
updating both the regular AR-11 requirement plus any pending applications. So I think applicants can reasonably rely on the website tool.
All right, great. Next question.
Okay. I know someone who had a deportation proceeding against them in the 90s, but were never deported. He recently submitted his naturalization form, but put that he never had been in deportation proceedings. Will that give him any problems to become a citizen, even though the proceedings never came up when he got his green card?
Does it say that they have a removal order or a deportation order, or is it just that they were in proceedings? So we don't know what the result was.
In proceedings against him in the 90s, but were never deported. But I mean, deported usually means physically deported.
So never, got a deportation order, but was never physically kicked out of the United States. Liz, would you like to take that one?
Sure. Well, that little distinction could make a huge difference.
Yes.
Let's take the first one first, that in the worst case scenario, if the person had been